Couple of topics that I'd like to talk about. First, the government shutdown. I don't know what my friends on the other side expect. We will talk about the Affordable Care Act at the right time, starting with the idea it's not affordable. And you created a law without any Republican votes. You had the subsidies expire. That was your choice. Most of us believe that the Obamacare program you created is very expensive, and we're not going to extend it. We would look at trying to make it better. The president has a brilliant idea about how better to use the money to help consumers. Senator Marshall just left. So we're not going to, whether you open the government up or not, I'm not going to change my vote. I'm not going to vote to authorize these subsidies as they are. I'm not going to vote to repeal the good work we did under the big, beautiful bill. So let's open up the government and talk. And if you don't want to do that, then a lot of people are going to have their lives turned upside down for no good reason, because I don't feel like we should be held hostage here to get a legislative outcome to open up the government. We tried that as Republicans. You got to build a wall or we won't open the government. It's probably not a good idea for us. Didn't work out well for us, and nothing else learned from what we did. So I'm hoping the government will open soon. Dangerous time to have the federal government not functioning in the security space. It's danger for air travel, but if you haven't noticed, the world's a pretty dangerous place. So I want to talk about two things: China and Russia. President Trump is traveling to South Korea, and I think he's going to meet Chinese President Xi. I don't mind talking with people that I disagree with. I like the fact that President Trump has reached out to adversaries, try to find common ground to end conflicts that have been very destructive. So when it comes to President Trump and Russia, he's made a full court press to try to get Russia at the table to find a way to end the bloodbath in Ukraine, to make it an outcome that's acceptable to all parties. I don't think President Trump's out to humiliate Putin at all, but he does want to end the war in a way that we don't have a third invasion. So I appreciate what he's done, and it's been very aggressive effort to engage the parties. In the past, we kind of ignored Putin. I don't think that's the right solution. But we've come to a point now where every time President Trump talks about a proposal to end the bloodbath, Putin has a reason not to get there. The latest proposal by President Trump is to have a ceasefire in place. Stop the fighting, stop the killing at the line of contact, go back to your respective sides, and we'll sit down and find a way forward to get a comprehensive deal. That's the best proposal I've heard from anybody. Ukraine said yes, Europe said yes, Putin says no. Putin continues to attack Ukraine. They show no indication of wanting to stop this war until they meet their war aims. Well, let me tell Russia, your war aims are not going to be accepted by the United States and Ukraine. Putin said today that he would respond fiercely if we increase the lethality of the Ukrainian military. Well, you said that a lot. I want the war to end. I don't want anything Russia has. I just want the war to end in an honorable and just way. So if you expect Ukraine to give you territory that you don't occupy today, that would create a pathway to Kyiv in the future, make them very vulnerable to a third invasion, it's not going to happen. And I know Putin could care less about how many Russians die. They say 1 million casualties. I don't know. Who knows? I know this. His respect for life is pretty low. North Koreans, people from all over the Russian provinces have been thrown into a meat grinder, and he could really care less. He does care about his own lifestyle. Beyond that, I don't think he cares less, could care less. His economy is selling cheap oil and gas to fuel his war machine. So he's selling gas and oil well below market prices, Putin, to get the money to continue the attack on Ukraine. So President Trump and myself and many of us here are suggesting to those who buy cheap Russian oil and gas, stop it so we can find a way to get Putin to the peace table. The largest three customers buying Russian oil and gas that do not help Ukraine are China, India, and Brazil. If those three customers told Putin it's time to wind this war down, then I think the war would be over pretty quickly, because without oil and gas money, he can't prosecute the war. I understand wanting to buy cheap Russian oil, but I don't understand a country that buys cheap Russian oil knowing that it's going to be used to kill innocent people and acquire land from others by force of arms. I've been told that our friends in India are very proud. You have a lot to be proud of. I've been told that our friends in India are trying to find a way to be less dependent on Russian oil. To our friends in India, well done. Before the invasion by Putin, India was buying 3% of their oil from Russia. After the invasion, it went up to almost 30%. Why? They were buying it below market prices from Russia, refining it in India and selling it at a profit. That's not something to be proud of. I'm hopeful that you're going to abandon that practice to get us to a place where we can end the war in Russia and stop the killing. So there's some progress there. As to China, if President Xi called Putin tomorrow and said, it's now time to wind this conflict down, you need to get to the peace table, I think Putin would not have much of a choice. China is the #1 customer of Russian oil. If they made a decision tomorrow to change that practice, then I think Putin's ability to prosecute the war would hit a wall. Now, President Trump is going to talk to Xi, hopefully, here soon. And there'll be a lot of issues on the table. As to China, it's a communist dictatorship. I'm no fan of the Chinese Communist Party. To say otherwise would be misleading. Having said that, there's times that we can do business with China for the betterment of all of us. This is one of those times. I'm hoping that when President Trump meets with President Xi, if that happens, that he will be able to persuade President Xi it's now time to end the bloodbath in Ukraine. I need your help to get Putin to the table. And to China, if you were able to do that, I think it would open up opportunities between you, the United States, China, the United States, and the Western world to have a better relationship. If China wants to be a meaningful member of the international community and wants to be treated better, then act better. If you want to be treated normally, act normal. So to China, you have the power to help end this war. I would urge you to work with President Trump to achieve that goal. It will make the world a better place, and I think it will inure to the benefit of China. Sanctions were put on the two largest oil companies in Russia yesterday by Secretary Bessent at the direction of President Trump. I think President Trump has come to believe that Putin doesn't want a ceasefire at the line of contact, and everybody but him does. And I hope President Trump's new policy will be, I'm not going to talk to Russia anymore until they agree to a ceasefire at the line of contact like Ukraine has. Once that agreement's reached, then we can sit down and try to end this war.